What's the dumbest thing you believed as a kid? That my grandma had a glass eye, and that she lost her eye in a bar fight. Nope, took me until I was 20 to discover she just had a lazy eye, and my dad and his brothers always told kids that story every holiday meet-up. The teachers sleep at school. Not me, but my brother was convinced for a few weeks that some cows had longer legs on one side of their body so they could stand on hills. I thought the black market was an actual market, like under a bridge or something. I believed this for longer, as I want to admit that dinosaurs were still alive on another island. And I kept asking my mother if we could go to the island with all the dinosaurs. Then she told me they were all dead. I used to watch my dad go to the ATM, look at the receipt and get grumpy, frustrated. I knew how bank accounts and ATMs worked, but the kid logic part of my brain figured that they also kind of worked like slot machines, in that, when you conducted some transaction on them, you got that slip with 3 icons on it. If you got one with 3 cherries, for example, you would take it inside and they would deposit $50 or whatever into your account. I figured he was frustrated because he kept losing all the time. I even asked him a few times when he was looking at the receipt, "Did you win?" And he was like, "No." That actors, TV characters would have to come back into a studio for each rerun of a show, movie. I would always be so amazed that people would have the time to go into a room with a camera multiple times a day just so I could watch them do the same thing over and over again. My mom told me babies came from pumpkin patches. I thought that if you eat a pumpkin you'll become pregnant. That fat people explode when they get too fat. My stepdad had an old truck with 2 gas tanks that he would flip a switch to change from one to the other. He had us convinced that he would magically steal gas from other vehicles. He would tell us to pick one and we would watch the gas dial go from E to F while driving on the highway. Blew my mind. I thought a baby just randomly appeared in a woman's womb. I stayed awake, crying about it because I didn't want to become pregnant. My brother and I wrote letters to Santa and our dad would open up the coal furnace door and we would throw them in the fire. We believed they would go directly to the North Pole. That sex was literally sleeping next to one another and making moaning sounds. I heard things I wanna forget. For some reason, I thought every car that was made had to do a crash test, probably because my dad once told that our car had a very good rating in the crash test. I was amazed by the fact that all cars were repaired so well before being sold. You know those animatronic dinosaurs at museums? I knew they were robots. But as a child I was convinced that the robot was unaware of its animatronic status. I believed that if the robot wanted to, it could and would step over the barrier and eat me and everyone else. This fear was compounded when my dad, more than once, picked me up and pretended he would drop me down the other side of the barrier. When I was young, my parents told me that if I kept leaving the fridge open then I would freeze the whole world and then no one would like me. That all bald men were kidnappers. No idea where it came from. I really don't think I was kidnapped as a child. But if I was, it was definitely a bald man that did it. Blue fire was cold. I had no idea that morning sickness was associated with pregnancy. My coach was concerned when I shrugged my shoulders and stated that's what was probably causing my sluggishness at football camp practice. I didn't know cars have a turn signal lever. So I thought the car knew where we were going. I thought the car would use the arrows to tell my parents where to turn.